The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Mid-Carolina Service Company.
Mid-Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
This episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Bob's. Bob's is a Columbia-based retailer of over 100 Black-owned products from 20 Black-owned businesses. Bob's offers a wide range of items from household cleaning, cosmetics, and everything in between. With every visit to Bob's, you support Black-owned businesses, giving them the opportunity to grow and establish connections with our community. Bob's is located inside the Noma warehouse at 2222 Sumter Street in Columbia, South Carolina. Visit their website, weshopbobs.com, for in-store pickup or to find out more. Bob's can also be found via social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at weshopbobs. When you stop by, tell them the Hilltop Glove sent you. Bob's brings quality Black brands to the Columbia community. The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Red Rooster Sports Bar and Grill. Red Rooster is your neighborhood bar and grill serving the best wings, burgers, and baskets in the Met.
Like the amazing food, the bar is always on tap, and there's plenty of screens to watch the big game. Red Rooster is the Midland's premier meetup spot for local car and bike clubs, fraternities, and sororities.
Staff is dedicated to accommodating all kinds of parties and events. If you're looking to catch a game, have a bite, and a drink, look no further than the Red Rooster.
Red Rooster is located at 7500 Wilson Boulevard, Columbia, South Carolina. For more information, visit redroostersportsbar.com or visit them on Facebook and Instagram at Red Rooster Sports Bar. Go where the winners go.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
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 Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. I'm your host Tamaya, as well as my co-host DJ N What. And today we have the pleasure of interviewing Brad Washington. Brad is a Columbia, South Carolina-based educator, author, and avid runner. He is also the author of a social emotional learning culture building program and book, The Green Print. Thank you for joining us today, Brad. How are you?
I'm doing good, Tamaya. It's so good to hear from you and speak to you. I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
Good, doing good. Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, I know you in Columbia, and I have read the Green Print book, and I thought you would be a great host, a great guest for this show. So just for our viewers, can you give us a little bit of background information about your journey as an educator, and what are some of your influences growing up?
I've had what you would call an unorthodox way of becoming an educator. My background really started with Boys and Girls Club. And my number one influence, I'm glad you asked that, he's actually the director of operations for Boys and Girls Club now, but he was my campus director, Mr. Ken Garner. And I worked underneath him for 2 years, but he's the one that kind of showed me that I was really talented at what I was doing and what I could do. And I became a program director with Boys and Girls Club after 2 years of working with them. And after about a year of being a program director, I actually started working in the school as a behavior interventionist at Windsor Elementary, while I was also a program director there as well. So I worked at Windsor Elementary for 5 years and did the Boys and Girls Club there as a director for 6 years. And I have a lot of influences just from Windsor Elementary alone. Dr. Jonathan Abney, one of my best friends, Dr. Tanya Cunningham, Jason Ashley, Terry Johnson, my principal, Beth Elliott, he's a principal now at Killian Elementary, Stacy Franklin. There's so many to count, but that's where I got my building blocks to be an educator. And that's also where, and what influenced the Green Print book, where, I wrote it based off my experiences there when I did the program at Windsor Elementary in the afternoon.
Okay. Now, was that the school that you went to? Did you go to that school?
I actually went to that school. And
okay.
what's funny is that school, I live in the Wildwood area. It served a lot of the Wildwood kids. And, I would say it was an affluent school. And so the Windsor that I went to and the Windsor that I worked at is two completely different Windsors. So, but currently I'm a first grade teacher at Newberry Elementary, and I love it. And I'm kind of incorporating a lot of the Green Print elements into the classroom, and it's been a blast.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yes. So you said you teach first grade. Now, what grade do you like the best to teach the best? To be honest with you, it's a trade-off. I would say when I did my afternoon experiences, I worked primarily with the older kids, the 3rd through 5th grade. And so I can do any grade, but 5th grade, 1st grade is going to require different techniques on how to work with them. So I would say 5th grade because, you could be quote unquote strict or a disciplinarian all you want, but if you don't have the relationship with them, then it's not going to be fruitful. You're not going to get much out of them. But like with my first graders, they're going to love you no matter what. But you have to know how to teach them. You have to know how to work with them. So they're going to love you whether you mean to them for 3 days in a row. If you show up with some cupcakes, they'll love you again. That trick is not going to work with 5th grade. So I love all of them. But if I had a preference of who to talk to in the building, it would be 5th grade. But I enjoy 1st grade because it's really more developmental. You're developing their minds more. You're developing their social skills, and they're quicker to buy into what you're trying to do. So I know as an educator, you are responsible for, teaching students, but also molding their ways of thinking by facilitating certain discussions and developing engaging learning techniques such as the Green Print. What personality traits do teachers need to be successful? I think a teacher has to always be a willing student and learner. You can never go in and think that you have all of the answers. You have so many different teachers and education coaches and administrators, of course, in the building, and all of them have different philosophies on how to teach, how to approach things. And if you just go in kind of closed-minded and not open, then you're going to be stuck as an educator. Every day I walk into the building, I've been doing education. This is my 11th year. There's always something new to do, something new to learn, a question to ask. You can even learn from your students. So just always wanting to be a learner, a student, whether it's reading or researching articles or asking questions or asking to observe someone, talking to the parents. I would say I have a very good relationship with my parents, and it's very collaborative. I want what's best for their child, and so do they. And so I never say, well, I'm not going to listen to you because you're just a parent. You don't know what's going on in the classroom. They also know their child too. And so just being a student, being a learner, I think that's the number one thing you have to be a successful educator in any field. I agree. I definitely agree. Now, what traits do you have that you instill in your students to help them progress? Because I know each teacher is different. So I just want to know, do you have certain techniques that you instill in them? Well, I'm glad you asked that. Well, Tamaya, I've lost over 120 pounds. And I think, when you go through that process, it changes you, it changes your mindset, it changes your life. Now, of course,
I can't put my exact techniques on 6 and 7-year-olds, or, if I was working in the afternoon, 9, 10, and 11-year-olds. But it's really just the mindset of doing anything that you want, but it starts with your mind. We control a lot of what we do through our brain activity, and we have more control than what we think. And one of the things that we talk about in my classroom is being a skilled thinker. A skilled thinker knows how to go through their processes. If they was doing a math problem, instead of, asking me, they know if they have their blocks, they could just pull their blocks out. If they have a number line, they could just go to their number line. If they have some manipulative, they can go to their manipulative. They can use their fingers. They can use their sheet of paper. That's what a skilled thinker does that. And we talk about that all the time, every day, whenever they come and say, well, Mr. Washington, I can't do this, or I think I can do this. I always say, well, use your skills. What are your skills? Whether it's sounding out a word, at, A is A and T is T. Those are the skills that we teach. And so getting them to really trust their brain process, their thought process has been one of the number one things that I've been doing, in my classroom. So I would say I like to say I'm a skilled thinker. And so I want them to have those steps as they move forward in their life once they're out of my classroom in the next few months, to be a skilled thinker, to use their brain. They have the ability to think, like I always say.
Right. Just explore their mind on different levels.
Yeah. Explore their minds on different levels. They can do it. We all can do more than what we think we can,
Mm-hmm.
So use your resources, ask questions. It's okay. Even if you get it wrong, that's okay.
Now, I know you personally, but how does it feel being such a young educator in the system, in the school system?
You know what? I think the young educators are the trailblazers. When I did my program and wrote the book, that was through, a lot of research, but it also kind of came from trial and error. It was really just me, trying to organize the day. But then when I saw that the days was being organized and it was working, then it made me want to continue to, push the envelope and add new things. And then that's how it kind of came out. But I think that's the advantage to being young. I've seen older educators, they refuse technology. Technology is great in the classroom. You shouldn't overuse it, but it's great in the classroom. They refuse to kind of get help. They kind of get stuck in their ways. And when you're young, like all of us are young here. So, we know that we have a lot of life left and we want to explore that. And we also see the mistakes of maybe other people. And we don't want to go down that path. So, kind of get back to what you're saying about being a young educator. I think it's a great thing, because in the next 10 years, we could really revolutionize it. I think social emotional learning came from young educators. I think restorative practice came from young educators. School today is not how school was when we went to school to mine.
No, it's
yeah, we didn't do social emotional learning. We didn't have restorative practices. If, the teacher wasn't a good teacher, then it just was whatever, the relationship building. So just seeing how far it's come, using those social emotional learning in the classroom and building relationships with the teachers, like those are things that are like essential to being a great teacher now. So I think that's the advantage of being young. You can just do more and you feel like you have more time to do more. You can push that envelope as far as, instead of being an elder teacher that came from that era that we came from when we went to school where they don't want to push the envelope. I would say that's the advantage of being a young educator.
I mean, that's I like hearing this perspective from somebody like yourself. You're a young educator. You're working here in South Carolina. You're also a Black male teacher, which is something I've only seen 2 of those in my lifetime. One was as a professor, actually a college professor. So, and we all know it's important in children's development to see positive visual representations of themselves in society across all demographics, because of course, healthy self-image, it affects your behavior, your academic achievement, and etc. They've done studies that prove that this is a important thing, but we still have a lack or a dearth of Black male educators, especially in elementary school settings. You do not usually see people like yourself, Mr.
Right.
Washington. And I know, Tamaya and I, before we actually got on, we were like, man, because we were talking about your green print book. I was like, man, I wish we had educators like this. We didn't get this type of flavor of seasoning when we was in school, and it would have made it a better experience overall. And part of that is because you aren't part of the normal group or class of what we consider educators. So you bring in new thinking concepts and et cetera. Part of course, being youthful. But man, it leads to the question just to ask, like, what do you think causes the lack of Black male educators?
I'll say that's a tough question. I think maybe it's kind of going to the point where you said we didn't see too many of them growing up. Like in my grade school days, I've only had two, and they're actually two of my favorite teachers.
Exactly.
Yeah. My favorite teacher ever is Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Brandon Ferguson. He's a principal down in Louisiana. And Mr. Arthur Newton, he's over elementary school assistant principals in District 2, but he was my seventh grade science teacher. We didn't see too many of that. So we didn't, I guess you naturally don't look at education or teaching as a route to go. So that's why I'm glad to see, programs like Call Me Mr.
Yes.
One of my good friends, Raheem McKinney, he teaches at Blaney Elementary. He went through that program at Newberry College. I think that's when we start saying, okay, well, maybe we could be an educator, because we have those programs like Call Me Mr.
They created a path, most definitely.
Yes.
They created a path.
Yes. Yeah. So, but when I think back on, I've never heard anyone say, like an African-American male say, hey, I want to be an educator. I want to be a teacher. I've never heard that before.
Nah. And the only time you would hear it is if it was speaking of it in a higher education realm somewhere, or at a university or something like that. And I'm like, and I would sit here, and I remember I went to basically an all Black school, and this was a really cool school in Mullins, Palmetto. Shout out Palmetto School. But they had a Black male principal, Black female assistant principal, everything, right? But the funny thing was there weren't many Black educators, though, like literal, like administrative people. Okay, cool. But we didn't have like a Black male science teacher or a Black male English teacher. We only had a Black male PE teacher, physical ed. That was it. And another build on that question is like, so how, like, marketing's everything. Like, how could we improve these numbers? Like, do you think it's going to be through marketing or
pay
exposure?
Teachers.
Say it again.
Pay teachers.
Oh, someone popped in. All right, that's what I'm talking about. You're right. I agree.
Sorry,
that's the thing. No one
I had
wants
to throw that one out there because if you're coming up, like the idea of picking a career that you're not going to make money at just seems like not a great choice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how do we do that? Like, how would we raise pay for teachers, especially to make it enticing? Any ideas?
Well, I've actually been I watched this video on Success Academy. I'm actually reading the book on it. It's a charter school in New York. But I want to say they're paying their teachers $125,000.
Yes. They're competing. Yes,
but they're competing. Yes. And if you're not up to par, then they can ask you not to come back. They cannot renew your contract. Yep. They can fire you. So, but
you think unions would go for that's part of the issue. I was like, because I see what it is like how you would normally do in a business mindset. You would go and try to get the best, the brightest, and bring them into your institution. Correct? That's what you should do. Now, in order to do that, you have to give them a living wage, something that they can actually survive off of, subsist, but not, so they have to be able to something they can pull them in.
I'm going to try to piece this one together. I don't think it's an economic thing. I think you have to have a trailblazer. Someone has to be a trailblazer in the public school settings, one that can be innovative in creating programs, to enhance learning, to enhance whole body, whole mind development that can probably enhance Black male teachers to come in. We have a lot of great Black male teachers, Black teachers that I have come across, like Terry Johnson. She teaches at Killian. I worked with her at Windsor Elementary. Alicia Jordan, she's an educational coach up in North Carolina, but like they were so innovative. They were so boundary pushing. Yeah. Yes. I think you're going to have someone like that. It can't be really an economic thing. You have to have it be someone that's going to be innovative, that's going to draw people in. It's kind of like music, If, the trailblazers in music were the people who were creative geniuses, especially on the Black side. Stevie Wonder, Prince, Michael Jackson, they were big in terms of being a persona, but they were so musically talented that they shifted the music world. And so there were so many people.
It came to them.
Came to them.
I see what you're saying.
So, you have a lot of people, when you think of someone that plays all of their instruments, you think of Prince, think of Stevie Wonder. So when you see an artist doing that, and you see a lot of artists coming up, they're trying to be like Prince, trying to be like a Stevie Wonder. So it's kind of the same thing in education. It can't be, I don't think it could be, but I think you'll get more, especially from Black males or Black educators in general, Black women. Yeah. If it was someone that looked like us that continued to push the boundaries, because we have a lot of educators that can do that and
they can influence. You're just saying that these people have influence.
You're saying it's less about getting 100,000 teachers to join all over the country and more about getting a few rock stars that really like kind of push it forward and make it be something that people, because, you don't make money as an artist. I don't make money as an artist, but it seemed fun.
Yeah.
Like I know, and it's funny because I know one of my good friends named Jason Robinson. He lives in Greenville, and he does the after school thing. And I've always said, Jason, man, you're like the best I've ever seen work with kids. You're the best. But he loves the after school forum because he could do so much. He could do so much there. But in the education system, because it's so rigorous and it's so rigid, it's only but so much he could do. And so he kind of always said, nah, he like, Brad, that's your field. You do that. But if we could get someone like him in, like, hey, Jason, you can still do the things you do. It's just you have to teach. You can still do the things you do. I think those are the type of things that will get more Black educators inside.
So freedom of how you create your programming?
Yeah, freedom in how you teach. That's how I approach teaching. I see teaching like Andy Reid doing play design. Each week is something different. Each week is something different, coming up with different lesson plans, different activities. You want the kids to be engaged. I kind of, it was the same thing when I was really doing a lot of the after school work. It's like each week within the green print was something different. Let me try this activity with them. Let me see how they like it. I remember we did this activity called the dinner and the groceries. And I would, if we was doing like a team building activity, sometimes I'll see them arguing. And of course, when you're 9, 10, and 11, you're just in the moment. And I said, well, are you bringing the right ingredients? When you're going up to approach someone about a problem, are you coming up with the right ingredients? Which is like, if you want spaghetti, you can't come back from the store with chocolate, gummy worms, and Doritos. You got to bring the right ingredients. You got to bring your noodles, your ground beef, your sauce, marinara sauce. You got to bring those things. If you wanted to make macaroni and cheese, you need your noodles, you need your cheese, you need your milk,
butter.
Your butter. And so that's how it's going to be made. And so I will get them I came up with it. I'll get them on the board. I say, how do we make macaroni and cheese? How do we make spaghetti? And they said, well, we need this. I said, okay. So what if I came with sprinkles and chocolate chip cookies and Doritos and Cheetos? Can we make it? You could make it in your mind, but it's not going to turn out the way it's supposed to in reality. And so that was something, we did that a couple of times a month. And so I would say it's the same thing when you're trying to, discuss a problem with a friend. You have to bring the right ingredients. You have to bring the right tone, the right words. So we would, that's stuff that we would teach. So it's things like that. I love doing those things, just coming up with creating new things. And, sometimes, when we're doing a math lesson, and I say, well, what are the right ingredients that we need to make this math lesson the best? got to pay attention, got to raise our hand. We got to come up and work the problem out, the right ingredient. So the dinner, that was something that we did. But, if we keep having programs and being innovative like that instead of just being so rigorous, I think that's what will bring it in.
I like that answer, Brad.
I agree.
really like
it also
that
brings
answer.
up that, when you're talking about teachers, paying them $100,000 a year, but then being able to fire them, you're losing that skill set that they're building every year. So maybe, and I see that like late stage capitalism mentality. It's like, well, you pay them good and then you get them out of there if they're not doing what you want them. But it's almost like every year that a teacher's there, you're investing in them. And it's like, you're really like the key has got to be like coaching people up to being the people that we want.
Come on.
Yes.
Come on.
I don't have y'all been watching Abbott Elementary?
Oh, no, I heard of that show.
It is good.
It's so funny.
Yes. But, the people on the show, I've seen and heard there are teachers and administrators like that who are not invested into the kids and they're not invested into their teachers.
Wow.
So, yeah. Some people probably are getting administrative jobs because it pays well, not because, they're really invested into the learning process that's going on in the school.
Yeah. Speaking of, for a lot of youth, actions speak louder than words. Leading by example is often the best way to connect with youth. Real life modeling is the most effective method of impacting students. While reading Green Print, I know this is one thing that I thought was so cool, man, is I like how you emphasize using the sports references to proper coaching, leadership, and creating culture, which is the most important thing. I know Kevin and I, we always talk about bad football teams and the fact that they have bad cultures, like what it took to turn the Arizona Cardinals from a horrible team into something that you can actually watch on TV. It took a long time of changing culture around a place like that. And I guess this also leads into the importance of it when it comes to being an educator, a coach, or a mentor, and to properly lead by example while engaging youth. Like, how important is that for you to do when it comes to you? Because you hammer that through about culture. Could you explain that to our audience?
It's number one. It's number one. Whether it's the after school setting or in the school setting, it's the number one thing that you have to do because your culture is the mindset and expectation of what's to come. So if it was in the afternoon, if we were doing an activity, what is the culture of the activity? The culture, the environment of what we're trying to do. What is it? Do we come here to play around? Is this something where we kind of relax on? Is this something where we probably have to take it serious? It starts at the top. If the top isn't, emphasizing that, then we can't expect for the kids, or even if it was high school kids or middle school kids, to follow. They're following your lead. And once you kind of set that tone, then it's important to get everyone to buy in, because once you have everyone buying in, then they'll be the ones that will set the tone and they'll be the ones that will reprimand someone. I remember a few years, like I'll probably say the first year I did the Green Print, I remember, I was always the one that would get all of the kids that was not doing what they were supposed to do. And so
the problems here.
They would come to our group and, they'll try to do the same stuff. But the culture was so set in stone that I didn't have to say anything. They would just say, look, we don't do that here. This is how we act. And when you get the people policing other people, that's when the culture is strong. And it doesn't.
You're a dangerous man, Mr. Washington.
Yeah.
You're a dangerous man.
Yeah. When you get your students, or
you're right.
If you're over a project or, you're a manager at a job, if you get the people policing, that's when the culture is strong. And even as a teacher, teaching is really about the thinking, the thinking culture. Like, how do we operate? Once stuff goes on the board, what do we do? Do we play around or do we get straight to work? When we're doing our centers, is this a time to play or is this a time to learn? And that's something that we talk about. And so when you get everybody on board doing that, then they will, my students are doing a pretty good job policing others and say, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to
They have expectations.
Yes. Because if you got one student acting out and you got 9 kids following them up, and they looking at them, then the culture is not strong. The culture is supposed to be stronger than the individual.
Like Tim Duncan and Tom Brady.
Yeah, like Tim Duncan and Tom Brady.
Yeah.
If Tom Brady, the best player, is there 30 minutes before practice, then you will see other players being 30 minutes early before practice because he's setting the tone. And so that was something with the green print. We did, our social emotional learning. Yes, we did our communication and social skills, but it was the culture that allowed that to happen,
Get it.
And then after a while, once the culture was set, then the fun really, really starts because then they could help me plan out some of the things that we were supposed to be doing. And now that's kind of where we are in my classroom, where things they like to do, things they like to learn, they're helping me out with the lessons. So, but the culture has to be set first, whether it's in sports or teaching, or if you're a manager over at Walmart, like you have to set the culture. You have to set the culture. So it's very important in any place. Culture, as you see with the Rams, they have a great culture over there. They're bringing in players and they're succeeding. So that's a reflection of the culture. So it's very important.
With that culture being so important, what are some challenges you experienced or witnessed while attempting to get things that way? Like while you're trying to change the culture to make it one that was a good foundation?
Well, usually you're going to get pushback. If you have people, well, in my case, if you have students that are used to one way of doing things, then, they're going to probably push back. When I got the group of kids that created the green print, because I say it was a collaborative effort, we did that together. They was used to doing what they wanted to do. They were used to doing those things. And it took a few months for them to kind of really buy in. They was buying in reluctantly because it was me, but once December came around, that's when the buy-in was like, okay, we see what he's saying. And, I think the number one challenge is really just knowing how to build those relationships with certain students so that they can buy into. And, you have to really have that, relationship piece. It's very cliche, but it's very true. It's very true. And sometimes, you have about half that'll just get it over time. And you have the other half that they're not getting it for a variety of reasons. They probably want the old way, or, you probably remind them of a parent that they have and they're pushing back on you. I had one student tell me, she said, you remind me of my dad. Oh, wow. And I don't like him.
Oh, wow.
You lost right off the bat.
Yeah. And so you don't know, but you won't know until you build that relationship with them. And you have to kind of figure them out, when to talk to them, how to talk to them, what's the best time, what are the things they like. So, but I would say, with building a culture, it starts, of course, with setting the tone of how you want things to be done, but also on the back end, you have to build it with the students and you have to build it with the parents too, over time.
Got you.
So I would say that's the probably the toughest part, because some days you're going to say, well, what am I doing? Is it working?
Yeah.
But you have to keep chipping away at it. And then usually if you continue to chip away at it, you'll start to see the fruits of your labor.
Gotcha.
I have a question. So how was the research part of the green print? Like trial and error, the experimental part. What was that phase like?
Honestly, Tamaya, that was actually fun because I like to read. So just reading up on different rooms and schools and how they're doing things and teams. My favorite basketball team is the Golden State Warriors. And Steve Kerr has a thing where he talks about being compassionate and also playing with joy. And sometimes, Black educators, they get stigmatized into just being the disciplinarians and, they only listen to you because you're a Black male. I've heard that numerous times.
Scared of you.
Oh, yeah. Numerous times. It's a backhand compliment. And I say, you know what? I don't want my kids to come into the room and, be afraid of me. So I started looking into what does Steve Kerr talk about. Clemson, Dabo Sweeney, he's kind of the same way. He wants his teams to have fun, but they also work. And I said, you know what? I don't want my kids to come into my classroom or into my space and be like, oh man, Mr. Brad or Mr. Washington, oh, what's he gonna say today? Same way Clemson football players don't walk into, the facility and say, what's Dabo Sweeney going to say? Like, oh, man, that's Coach Sweeney. Or Steph Curry walks in and says, oh, that's just Coach Kerr. We come here to have fun, but we also come to work. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of started to mold my style into that, where I wanted them to have fun. But we're also going to work, too. We're going to, represent the school very well. So it was fun to read up on those things, different styles, different cultures, what's making things work, and then say, okay, well, let me go try that in the afternoon. And sometimes it would work, and sometimes say, let's not do that again. We would do something on Thursdays, like a step to the line game, and I would ask questions, just to see where they are, and if it was true, they would step out. And we came up with something called the puddle, the pool, or the ocean. And the ocean meant that we was going to go deep. And then I remember one day we went deep and them jokers was crying. Oh, I said, I can't do that again. You don't want to mess up their whole day. I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. So we try to stick to the pool, maybe the puddle and the pool. The pool is the deepest we go. So, but yeah, just doing things like that, I wanted, those are the trial and errors, and, but the research part was really fun. And I think reading up on Clemson football and how they're not so like Alabama, and Nick Saban is like a professional football factory. Like it's actually a family where the players like to stay and be there. That's what I wanted. I wanted that experience. And I think we did that.
Man, that's dope. That's dope, man. I know this is a Kevin question, so I'm gonna break it down for his perspective. But I know in 2020 he really started running and doing his best to make sure he was getting in shape and provide himself a constructive outlet for his restlessness. Because of course, as you know now, he has ADHD, but he realized that he could do something. Yeah, see what I'm saying? Look, I can tell. It makes sense. Me too. But he would do some of his best thinking while he's running. Usually he calls me while he's either getting his steps in or whatnot anyway. So I'm used to, all right, yeah, he's thinking right now. But it helps him to clear his mind and refocus his creativity. And he just want to ask, as a fellow runner, how does running affect the ways in which you cope with daily stress of being an educator?
Oh, man, running is the best thing that has happened to me since the pandemic. I would say the buildup of running, especially in the cold, actually before I got on, I just finished a 7-mile run.
Ooh, just 7-mile run because it's Saturday morning. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
The build up to it is annoying, but once you throw your headphones on and you cue your music of what you're feeling for the day, you can just roll and fly. And it's the best thing. And it really does help with the stress. Because, sometimes I have things on my mind am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? Or as an educator or as a boyfriend or whatever. And you just throw it on and you just kind of think things through. It's did I do this right today? I probably should have said that. Next time I'm going to say things like this. And so you get that 45 minutes or hour really to yourself, where it's just you and your music and you're running. And you get to just think. And, let all that stuff out. And once you're done running, nothing is better than that. Nothing. Yeah. So the build up to running is annoying sometimes, especially like I said, in the cold. But once you get going and once you're finished, nothing is better. Sometimes you say, man, I wish I would have ran a little bit more. So it's definitely helped out with the stress. Definitely.
I believe it. And what advantages does running give you in your other pursuits?
I would say the discipline of running and getting stronger as a runner is the same thing, and getting stronger as a teacher and getting stronger as a friend, as anything that you're trying to do. Business person, when I started running, it happened because of the pandemic. I was going to the gym. I probably run a mile at the gym, but, I live in the Wildwood area. And so I just run down Mallet Hill. I would start off doing a mile, then 2 miles, then 3 miles. And then I said, you know what, let me run all the way down Mallet Hill and come back. And then when I came and did it, it's 5.2 miles. I was exhausted. But I said, let me do it again the next day. And then I would do that for a while. And, then I'll do 6 miles. So it's the same. It went from 6 miles, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15. And,
You're training yourself.
You're training yourself. You're training your mind. You're training
your mind, body, and soul.
You're training everything. So you're not going to get everything that you want to do at once. Sometimes it's going to take time. It's going to take effort, discipline, patience. So, when I first started working with kids, it was the same thing. I was not good at all. It took time. I was not good. But it took time. I had to humble myself and look at what other people were doing in Boys and Girls Club and listen to what my director, Mr. Ken, was telling me and read. And over time, then things started working out. So it's the same thing with running, So it definitely has been correlating the last couple years.
Do you have any suggestions for somebody that's looking to get into this or start into it? Because I know as millennials, we need any advice we can get about stuff like this, because it's that time for us. We got to take care of ourselves.
Yes. I would say however you want to do things with the running, just start. Some people, start. I saw one of my friends at a Riverfront Park, and she said she was going to do a 5K in March. I said, yeah, I'm going to do one in March. And she said, well, it took me about 38 minutes. And in my mind, I was like, well, I can do that in 18 minutes, 18 to 19. But it doesn't matter. No, because it's what she wants to do. And so some people will look at my time, if I post something, they'll say, oh, he did it in 8 minutes or 7 minutes. It doesn't matter if it takes 10 minutes to do a mile or 11. It's the fact that you're doing it.
And you conquered it.
Yeah, you conquered it. That's the thing. I was doing 9 and 10 minute paces at once, So I would just say, just get started. Even if it's a mile every few weeks. And then after a mile, you say, let me try a mile and a half, or let me try 2. And then after a while, you say, well, let me try 4. Let me try 5. Just let it be something that you enjoy doing. Running is, the more you run, the more you'll enjoy doing it.
And running is one of those things that I always tell folks, it is usually the punishment in other sports. So when you run, you're doing it for yourself. It is definitely for yourself.
And that's probably why some people are scared off of it. Like when I played lacrosse, we had to run a mile before and after each practice.
Yeah.
And I hated it.
Exactly. It's punishment.
It is punishment. Even with football, it was punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Go take a lap. And so it's very agonizing, and you're tired, and you don't really want to do. So that's a very good point. It was punishment. So that's probably what scares people off.
They don't want to do it. I don't want to hurt anymore.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt. I don't want to be tired.
Yeah.
So,
but the runner's high is one of the best highs you ever had.
Nothing is better.
Yep. That's the best, man. It is the best. That's one thing that keeps me addicted to doing it, is just the fact that just that feeling, like you said, after you're finished.
How many miles do you normally run?
Man, I'm only at 3 miles.
That's good.
But it's I just run around my neighborhood. I have my little path that I have set up. I'm trying to catch up with my brother, because he's always competitive sports wise and whatnot, right? I got to go bust him up in some basketball, because he's been burning me on this distance running. Because actually I used to run, I ran 2 mile in track and in the 3,200 relay and stuff. I was always running distance, and I would go, we had our 7 mile practice days and everything like that. I'm used to doing 10, 15. Like you get used to that, right? But,
yes, you do.
And that's why I tell people, it does, like you're saying, everything you're saying is very true. Your body, it builds itself up. And the cool thing about running, unlike other quote unquote sports activities, is that it builds your entire thing. Your whole body builds up. It's like rowing. So I always enjoyed it. And then, recently moving from different places, I've had to find different running areas. And so the place I'm in now, I won't say where I'm at, the place where I'm at now, some of the places don't look that safe. So I have my specified 3 mile running area that I get it in. But yeah, man. Yeah, I love it, man. Because I knew when Kevin put this question in here, I know I want to pick your brain about running, et cetera. What's your favorite types of running shoes? What do you like to wear when you run?
I like the Brooks.
Of course. Yeah.
The Brooks are the best. And I got some racing shoes. I don't know the name. I gotta go. I'll probably have to just let you know. But they make you feel like you're walking on air.
That's what you're looking for. Yeah. That's what you're looking for. Oh man. Because the thing about running is you just want to feel in stride. Like if you're in stride, everything is good. And that's where you get to that Zen moment where you can, like say, clear your mind and think things through. And it doesn't even matter to you how long you're running anymore. You're just going. Your body's like a machine.
Gone.
Yeah.
You become a
You're
pendulum.
just gone. Yes.
Yeah, seriously.
I love it.
I remember we used to get dinged on that all the time, like about form, whether it would be like doing cross country or track, form. And I used to always like, man, come on. I used to actually have somebody that would wait for me around about 200 meter mark to remind me form, because it really mattered. Like when you put the form on proper, you were fine. Everything was good.
Yes, pumping your arms. And one thing,
Take those legs up.
He trained me when I did my last half marathon, Kershawn Wilson. He taught me about like kicking my legs out and running on my toes.
Yep.
Yes,
It makes it so much easier. But like I said, the same concepts of discipline and culture, et cetera, that you talk about in the green print, that if you're a runner, you understand that. Because like you said, you don't always want to get up and go into the middle of the cold in the morning and go get a run in. But once you do it, you understand why you're doing it.
Hmm. And you thank yourself later for it. Like, thank you. Got out the way.
Exactly. But shoot, before we wrap up today, I got to ask, are there any current projects you're working on, or is there anything we can look forward from seeing from you in the future?
Well, I actually will, me and a few students at Newberry Elementary, and the director, her name is Miss Christine Aiken, we did a project about social media through the eyes of 10 and 11-year-olds. And I kind of, I presented the skeleton, but they took it and ran with it. And so we will actually be on WIS at 3:00 this week on Thursday.
For real? Oh, shit.
Yeah. So it's basic. It's through their eyes. And they talked about some really good stuff, and we just put it on a poster, and they're going to talk about it. So, we got that. Then I want to have a educator profile that should be coming out through USC by the end of March. And other than that, I think that's it. Outside of running some races, I think that's it. I started on the Green Print Volume 2 last year, but I haven't picked up on it. So I'll probably pick up on it sometime this year. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's probably about it.
Are there any places you would want people to be able to follow you at, any social media tags or anything you'd like to put or how they could get a copy of the Green Print?
They can get the copy of the Green Print. They can contact me, or they can go on Amazon. Mm-hmm. But I would prefer they contact me. I got some books that I can still ship out to them or hand to them on my own. And they can follow me on Instagram. Okay. I have a unique username that I have never changed ever, and I probably never will. It is TheMusician. It's the musician.
Yeah, I was wondering why. Okay, yes.
So they can follow me on Instagram with that, and they can also do the same thing on Twitter, even though I don't tweet because I hate Twitter. Can't stand it.
Lord.
I hate it. But, it has its crowd. But I don't get on it.
It does.
And so then on Facebook, it's Brad Washington. So, but I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook. So,
would it be best for people to contact you on Instagram if they wanted to get a book? Okay.
Yes, if they would like to get a book, they can either look my name up, Brad Washington, or The Musician, TheMusician.
Excellent.
Thank you, Brad, for this episode. I enjoyed it.
Oh, I enjoyed you guys. This was amazing.
Oh, man, thank you.
This was amazing. So I'm just glad we got a chance to connect. I'll just know from now on to use my work computer for any podcast.
There we go. Works it out.
It worked like a charm. I texted Tamaya last night and I said, I'm getting on. And as soon as I plugged this thing in, she said, I hear you. I said, thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all your information.
Thank y'all.
And if we can assist you in any way, just let us know. Links or references or anybody you think we should interview on our next episode.
That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.